I was asked by a few people if I would do a video sharing my cancer journey. And so here it is. This is my journey. This is what I had to walk through. It was April 2017. I just came out of the shower and I actually heard in my mind, "Touch your right breast." I immediately did that, of course, and I felt the lump. This was Friday. By Monday, I saw I just went to like a care, just like a medical care center that was close to our rental. In fact, we just moved to Florida in October of 2016. Actually, we weren't in a rental. By that time, we were already in our house that we bought. But we still went back to this care center because we were familiar with it. And this doctor immediately sent me to an oncologist, actually to a surgeon, to get it, oh goodness, I can't think of the word, where they check to see if it's cancer. And biopsy, there you go, that's what it is. So this doctor sent me to a surgeon who did a biopsy on me. And when it came back positive, he sent me to an oncologist. That's how it was. This was very quick. But in the meantime, it was brought to my attention with several books that, ladies gave me, that I thought that, there's many people out there that fight this naturally. So I decided to do that first. I decided a few months of juicing and doing things like that. I followed this one person called, it was chrisbeatscancer.com, I think. He beat cancer without chemotherapy, but he had colon cancer. Anyway, this went on for several months. And I also went to a healing minister in Tampa. I cast it out. I did whatever I could, or I thought, to get rid of this thing. I prayed, God, what is this? And then I felt the lump grow and my family being concerned. So I went ahead and went with the chemotherapy. It was a very confusing time for me because, if you hear of, Jesus wants everybody healed. Well, I believe he does, but he doesn't heal everybody. I asked him. I cast it out. I went to a healing minister. It did not leave. So, according to my testimony, sometimes he wants you to walk through certain things, even cancer, because he has reasons. It was about 2 months into my chemotherapy where I noticed I was starting to get bitter in my heart. Not necessarily bitter at God, but like wondering, like, God, why would you want me to put this poison in my body? Well, God saw that. So he put it on someone's heart in Alaska, thank you, Marilyn, to send me a little book called Prison to Praise. It was powerful. I recommend everybody read this book. It's a very small book, very quick read. It was written by an army chaplain during the Vietnam time, era. And basically the whole book's message was, if whatever you are going through, if it's not worse than what my son, Jesus, went through on the cross, then you need to praise me for it because I'm going to work it together for good. Well, that day when I got that message, I got out of bed, went in front of the mirror, and I just praised Jesus. I thanked him for the cancer. I thanked him for the crappy way I felt. I thanked him for the chemotherapy. And I said, I'm trusting you that you're going to work all this mess together for good. And I'm telling you, a miracle happened at that moment. Because the very same moment, the bitterness that was in my heart was gone. All of a sudden, this gratitude rose up inside of me. I'm assuming from the spiritual realm, from God himself. I remember going back to bed, still feeling like crap, still having months of chemo ahead of me, but all of a sudden the world looked different to me. I thought of all my blessings, despite what I was going through, I was still so blessed. I had great health insurance. My husband was taking care of me. I was retired. I didn't have to go to work. And then even things like they told me I would get mouth sores from the chemo. Never did. I would be sitting in the chemo room with, I don't know, 20, 30 other people, and they all looked like death warmed over, and I looked like I was prospering. I was gaining weight or not. I didn't look sickly like the others. I don't know. I felt like God put on my heart, you have to go through this, Barbara, but I will make it as easy and comfortable as possible. And he did. He did. So when the chemo was done, February 1st, 2018, I thought I was done. I thought, the lump was gone, I felt like. But, they did a biopsy or whatever of the tissue. And they said, it's still very close. It's still there. So let's just do a lumpectomy. Let's try to save your breast. And they did. Did another, I don't know if it's biopsy, I guess another, put your tissue under a microscope to see if there's still cancer cells. Well, again, there were still cancer cells. So they actually did another lumpectomy. And I thought again I was done. And I got the phone call, I'll never forget that, saying, no, we are recommending now that you do a mastectomy. Because even though the cancer cells, it's just too close, to the edge or whatever, something like that. And I remember that day again being completely distraught, thinking I was done. And I remember taking a walk that morning and just talking with God and just feeling again defeated. And all of a sudden this bird sang over me. I mean, it was loud. I mean, I'm in Florida. There are birds everywhere, yes, but not as loud as this one. And I looked up and I remembered that verse about God singing over us. And then I heard in my mind, I love you and I'm proud of you. I went home that afternoon and I took a nap. And I have this little toy poodle that lays by me. But this time he did something that he's never done. And mind you, he's 15 years old. Well, now he is. He poked his head in a way underneath my arm and looked at me as if it was a gift from God to me again. See, even though he knows we have to sometimes go through hard things, he's there. He's there still to love us and to comfort us and to hold us. And he does it in different ways. This was my journey. So yes, I had to get a mastectomy. And then they recommended radiation. And I was going to go along because, whatever, they know what they're doing. But again, God stepped in. And it was 3 days before I was supposed to start my radiation treatments that my oncologist sent me to the hospital to speak with someone about, getting different bras because, or a prosthetic breast or whatever. So I spoke with this lady and then she said, what's left for you? And I said, radiation. So she said, oh, here's a book on it. Well, I'd never read it. I never read anything about it. Took it home, read the book, lost complete peace about doing radiation. Basically, it said that it kills cancer cells. Well, I didn't have any more. And then it would say years later you could get lung problems or heart problems, all kinds of things. So what I did is I sent out a text to a few of my girlfriends and I said, I need wisdom, help me and pray because I don't know what to do anymore. I've lost peace. Well, one of my girlfriends immediately wrote back and said, Barbara, I knew you weren't supposed to do it, but I asked God to tell you himself. And that was confirmation. Actually, I asked God for one more confirmation. When my husband walks in the door, because he was gone, I'm going to tell him I'm not going to do radiation, and he's going to say, okay. And that's exactly what happened. So I did not do radiation because God didn't want me to do radiation. And again, it's not saying that you should say, I'm not getting radiation if your doctor recommends. I'm saying you need to go to Jesus himself and get direction yourself. Because we're such unique human beings. We're very unique to him. We have very different bodies, very different walks with him. We're on different journeys with him. in this particular time with God, he wanted me to walk through this. There's no other way I can explain it. And here it's 2025. Oh my gosh, I've got another one to share with you, but this is getting really long. Let me continue this another day. I have one more part to this because the doctor wanted me to stay on this hormone blocker for 10 years. Well, I asked God to get me off, and I'm going to tell you in the next video how he did that.